At the beginning of April, Valve made some minor tweaks to Banana on Inferno, and as a result, it broke a ton of lineups. So what better time to go back and revisit every single piece of utility for B-Site Inferno than right now. Today we're going to have a full guide for every smoke, molly, flash, and HE grenade that you need to know to be successful on this side of the map. But hey, before we dive all the way in, I want to thank today's sponsor, SkinsMonkey. For those of you that don't know, SkinsMonkey is an automated CS2 trading site that allows you to select the old skins you don't want anymore and pick out some new ones from the monkey. It's a great way to freshen up that old dusty inventory, and hey, that's not all. They have some amazing filter and selection features, as well as 24/7 live support. If you click the link in the description, you can get a free $5 and a 30% deposit bonus that becomes 35% if you use my code TACTICS on the site. Don't miss out on this offer and check out SkinsMonkey today. Let's get back into the video. I've noticed a lot of people missing the T-side half-wall smoke, also known as the dress smoke. It's used to instantly extinguish the CT half-wall incendiary, while also providing a gap to peek through to car. So to add a little bit of context into why this lineup is different, if you take a look right here, there's a little bit of an angle in Banana, and this position has moved slightly from the previous version. So it makes the lineup a little trickier, right? So if you were to go into the same position right in the middle here and aim at the bottom right of this dress, if you're just a little bit too far left, which is very easy to do without a zoom bind, this thing's gonna end up landing on the left side of that angle, and it's gonna pop straight down and land in the center here, not giving you any room to breathe around the smoke. So it's definitely not good. So what you're gonna have to do is just adjust it slightly to the right. So basically what you're gonna do, same spot, you're just gonna have to put a little more thought into this. I like to aim just a little bit down, maybe like a millimeter down to the right of this dress, and do a W jump throw alongside the wire. And that every single time is gonna consistently hit exactly where you want it on this far left side, extinguishing that molly and giving you plenty of room to work with. And of course, I'll always recommend the player with the best spawn to bank a molly off of the side of these windows here to completely burn out this region of car. That way you can move up behind this smoke and hold this angle. If you don't molly it, they actually run the risk of already being set up in this position and holding for you. Meanwhile, you can just throw the molly, wait for it to fade, and if they peek afterwards, you can bring them right down. Now, of course, I'll also recommend after you throw this molly to also bank an HE off the corner of this building right here to demolish anyone that's set up here behind sandbags. This is a great way to condition them to not hang out here, and it's just going to make it overall a little bit easier for you to take this control. Now, once you're actually ready to push on through into top car, well, there are a ton of different angles you're gonna have to worry about all at once. So having a good flash to help deal with all of this is gonna be absolutely critical. Now let's talk about some of the best ones. If you have a teammate go right here into this crack and do a simple left click throw at the little support beam right here under the balcony, that's gonna pop up here, and it's not gonna blind you or your teammates as you're running up, but it's gonna destroy these two close angles right here. But notice, it's not gonna catch anyone right here. There aren't a ton of great flashes that are gonna deal with this angle, but there is one from that exact same position that I don't see thrown all that often. If you're right here, you can just do a simple left click throw at the cross that's made out of these windows, just right along this position, where the boards intersect with the window, and that is gonna end up popping up here, and it's gonna land on the other side of the half wall if you're up close. So it's not gonna blind you. You can stand here, peek right after this thing, and guess what? It's gonna full blind anyone on this position, no matter what. If they're in a spot where they can see the cross here, they are gonna be getting full blinded without too much time to react. All right, so now that we have a standard banana take out of the way, let's talk about a little bit of a faster paced way to take all this control. If you get stuck right here into this corner alongside the barrel, and you aim in between this antenna and the top of this balcony, and a little bit out to the right, something like this, nothing too crazy, it's not that precise. You just do a simple W jump throw. This thing's gonna fly all the way up, it's gonna bank off the top of this roof, and it should land straight down here beyond this corner, completely smoking off this area of sight. And the reason we like this is because it takes away this corner angle, and it's gonna force the CTs to concentrate up in front of the smoke or even peek in front of car. So let's talk about that. The first thing that I would usually do is just bank a molly off this corner, and this is a really potent combo. You got a smoke molly combo that's gonna just take care of this entire area of top car. Now afterwards, if you want to peek on beyond that, of course you could throw, I would say probably that first variation of the half-wall flash that we talked about would do the best job here to take care of these positions. The only other thing you've got to worry about is perhaps a CT setting up here on car and peeking in the early round. And the best way to counter that is a flash that I first saw Kerrigan throw at the very start of CS2 from right here on this corner. You're going to do a simple jump throw at the top right of this do not enter sign, and that thing is going to completely eviscerate anyone on this car position, as you can see, and it's also going to demolish anyone that's just standing behind half wall in a position like this without any time to react whatsoever. Alright, so now let's move on and talk about the CT side perspective of this banana opener. So typically what you're going to be seeing is players going as fast as they can and doing a left and right click release right here at the balcony. Typically that HE is going to be landing right in the face of anyone that's taking the best spawn and just rushing right up banana. As you can see, that just did max damage on this guy, almost a 60 damage grenade, and that is the exact point that most of your Ts are going to be at as they're running up. So again, to kind of break that down and slow that down, you're just going to be aiming right around this position as you come around the corner and just doing a nice left and right click release. That should just go right up here, and generally you just want it to land as close to the center of banana as you can possibly get it. Now, of course, that HE is not all. Right after you throw that, you're then going to move here, aim at this nice little green plant, and do a shift wall throw. That's going to land right in the middle here. It should expand all the way from the far left to the far right and catch this area out here behind half wall as well. That's generally the set you're going to see thrown. Is just a nade and then a molly. I like to do it a little bit more fluid because if they're not nading sandbags, I like to go behind sandbags early, crouch down and play anti-flash while I have a player here on this position. If they flash him off, I can then just immediately pop up and start taking duels. And if they bring me down, hopefully he's not blind anymore and can peek out and trade me. This is generally a nice little setup. So the way that I end up throwing all this utility is I'll come around here and I'll just throw my HE, and then I'll end up aiming like right here at this thing and do a shift walk throw. So all in one motion, like my molly ends up kind of looking like this, and then I just go into this position. It's just a way to throw it a little bit quicker, and generally you're gonna have pretty much the same result. You can mess it up from time to time, but normally it's just kind of looks something like this, and then I just go. Yeah, I just end up stopping for a little bit less time. That's about it. Now, a lot of pro teams have been having their A players go into this position right here and do a crouching jump throw with the smoke where these little railings bend, and that thing is going to end up landing all the way down here at the very bottom of banana, completely smoking it off at a pretty good timing. This is going to make it a lot easier for the CTs to end up going for these early fights and peeks off the back of flashes without having to worry about getting traded from people who would normally just be peeking if this smoke were not here. Now, a lot of times you'll see pros going up here and banking a smoke off this left window pane, so it's going to look something like this, and then they'll end up peeking behind car. Now, a lot of times you'll also see them pair that up with a flash off this red piece because it's going to land in front of car, and it's a nice one-way flash that's not going to blind you, but it's going to blind the enemy team. So again, the glass actually does have to be there, so I'll go ahead and reset the glass, but it'll be a set that looks something like this. Smoke, flash, and they peek. Now, the reason that smoke's there is because a lot of times the Ts are going to end up throwing a Molotov, and that Molotov is typically thrown like this. And guess what? That's going to immediately put out that car molly, allowing you to go for an early peek. Now, if you don't want to throw that flash for yourself, you can always have your teammates go right here along this position and do a left and right click jump throw at this 10 to throw the original fallen flash. And of course, that is going to be a very beneficial flash. It's not going to blind you if you're looking down towards banana, but it's going to erase pretty much all of these angles back here without too terribly much time to react. You can definitely turn from it if you're looking for it, but it's a very good supporting flash to throw. Alright, so now let's take a look at our B site execute utility. The most obvious piece that broke with this update is the normal CT boost smoke. I used to always say you just go right here in the middle of this gas line and do a simple left click throw between this point on the building and the wire, so just right about here. But now, unfortunately, that doesn't really work. It's going to end up popping straight down here and just being a normal cross smoke, which again, isn't the end of the world if you're going to miss a smoke. It still has a little bit of a use, but obviously they can still see right over the smoke and kill you as you're going onto site. So, believe it or not, from that exact same position, you can just go right here in the middle of the gas line and do a simple left click throw just to the left of the corner of the building. Now, for me, I'm on crosshair length 2, so it looks about like this. However, that may be a little bit different depending on how your crosshair is. So I would recommend just playing around with it, seeing how it works with you. This is not that precise of a lineup. You've got a little bit of room for error, so I can throw this thing super fast and not put too much thought into where I'm positioning my crosshair, and generally I'm going to be hitting this thing. Or hey, if you don't like that lineup, a lot of the pros are going right here into this corner and doing a left and right click W jump throw from the top of this arrow up to the bottom of this pole right here. You can go down to the roof a little bit just for good measure. And again, left and right click W jump throw, and that thing's going to pop right off the side here, and every single time, and that's going to fully smoke off the boost just like that. So whichever one you prefer, go right ahead and use it. And hey, a pretty cool version of that was also found by one of my Discord users, Chaser. All you're gonna have to do is just a simple left and right click jump through at this bottom dot here next to the arrow, and that is gonna bounce right off the side and land up there just like all of the others. This may be the easiest version that I've seen so far, so it's another pretty great option. And also, shout out to not only Chaser, but Elsper Fondue, MCHKS, Nick MB, and Raptor for being active in the Discord and cooking up some lineups just after this update dropped. Alright, so now let's talk about the Coffin Smokes. So the one that I still use today that is still working is I'll go right here into this corner and do a simple W jump through at this darker mark just above the left-hand side of the arrow. This thing's gonna bank all the way off this back wall, and it's gonna be a giant smoke that will completely smoke off not only the bottom of coffins, but also up here on the top. So if anyone's standing up there, they're getting completely smoked out. Now the one downside to these smokes is the fact that a CT can actually position themselves to block this thing. If they hear it coming in, they can stand right there and just completely block it from doing what it's intended to do. So that is definitely one unfortunate downside to that sort of smoke. Now, if you want an extremely fast landing smoke that is also going to be pretty difficult for them to block, you can just crouch down in this position, aim just below this intersection here along the board, and just do a crouching jump through. This smoke should bounce off the side here and completely smoke off all of coffins here very quickly without the risk of it getting blocked. Alright, so let's talk about our execute mollies, starting off with the Newbox molly. I see most players going right here into this corner and doing a simple left click throw at this nice little notch. That's going to pop straight down, and most of the time it'll fully expand in to molly all the way out here on the back side of Newbox. However, this one is a little inconsistent. Sometimes you'll throw the same lineup twice in a row, and it just won't spread to get the backside here. Sometimes there's a pretty big size gap. As you can see, someone could be standing right here not taking any burn damage. So one way that I like to get that a little more consistent is I'm going to go into this corner, and instead of up here, I'm going to aim at this dark heart along the board. I'm going to go just under it where it would intersect with the middle of this line right here and do a jump through. That ends up landing further on the left here and will almost every single time spread all the way past this point, so there's no way anyone could tuck up here and peek off of an off timing where you wouldn't expect them. But again, whichever of those you want to throw is totally fine. I realize it's a little bit easier to just quickly throw this than to find an obscure spot on this plank. And again, for the most part, that's going to spread, but even here, as you can see, there's a massive gap. But let's go ahead and move on to the next lineup, and that is your first and second Origis lineup. The way that I normally will do that is by just going down to the right of this window and doing a simple left click throw. That should land right on the top here and spread to both the left and the right side after a couple of seconds, completely mollying it out. Now, that one is a little bit inconsistent sometimes as well. My friend Hemi actually showed me that you can go down to the bottom right of this gutter where it intersects here and do, yet again, another left click throw, and that lands just a little bit better and will oftentimes spread to this corner a bit quicker. So whichever one of those you want to go for, go right ahead and throw it. Now, one of my favorite things to do is pair both of these up together. So again, you're going to throw this molly, and then you're going to pair it up with this one. And as you can see here, we've got both of these positions completely mollied out for a full wall. From the far back right corner all the way to the left, this entire side of the site is completely engulfed in flames. It's going to push them way far out here, and it's going to be very difficult for them to take any sort of duels as you're coming on out. So now that we've burned down this entire side of sight, let's talk about taking care of dark. So just like CSGO, you can actually go in front of half wall, and you can find this mark right here and the far edge of the board and do a simple jump throw with a molly, and that's going to land on top of this, and it will eventually spread around to completely engulf this region, and it should normally burn this corner as well, as you can see. So that's a pretty good way to do this. However, I have an even better way. I like to go up on top of the half wall here, either get boosted or make the jump, and I'm going to aim right here alongside this dot just to the right of the bottom bar here of this gated window. Now that is going to end up landing here, and not only is it going to completely engulf this region, it's also going to get anyone hiding behind this pillar. So it's a nice little 2-for-1 special, and if you pair up the Newbox molly, the Origis molly, and this dark molly, almost every single piece of cover in the back of B site is completely burned out. This is one of the best executes you could ever throw when it comes to mollies. Alright, so now let's talk about the different flashbangs you can throw to finish off this B-side execute utility. So, I think everyone remembers back from CSGO, the God Flash. If you get stuck right here alongside these barrels, you can do a simple jump through at the top of this barrel right here. I like to go a little bit further left than most people. That way it isn't going to blind my teammates if they're hugging this wall right here. It's not going to blind anyone prematurely. And this is called a God Flash for a reason. If you're not smoking coffins, it'll full blind anyone here on coffins. It'll also catch anyone that's actively peeking from dark. It'll catch both the left side and the right side of Newbox, and it's also going to full blind anyone back here behind second oranges. And even if they're boosted up here, and I believe even if they're tucked back here, this will also full blind them without any warning whatsoever. The only thing it's not going to get is boost, but all you have to do is just smoke off boost, throw this flash, and pretty much every single angle you could ever imagine is going to be getting full blinded by this flash. It is a great one to throw. The only downside is the fact that it's going to full blind your teammates if they're peeking out wide. So it's a great flash to throw as the first flash as part of the execute, but throwing two back to back is generally going to result in blind teammates. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll throw this first flash. Right after it goes off, I'll aim to the left of these roses down onto this gutter and do a jump throw. This flash lands on the inside of this balcony, and that's going to blind a couple of the positions on site, like anyone back behind here. It's going to blind anyone on the left side and anyone that's just up in front if you've thrown mollies. If they're up here on Fountain, it's going to do a really good job of blinding all the active fighting positions. It's just a good layered flash to throw up that's not going to blind your teammates at all. Another pretty good layered flash that you can throw is instead of throwing it from the same position, you can have someone in this spot, and they can do a left click just to the left of this window. It's going to land on the inside here of CT, so it's not going to blind your teammates at all as they're running, but it'll catch most of the players out here, like the right side. But again, there are a lot of blind spots for these two flashes, so they're only good and useful whenever you're throwing them to be paired up with the main God Flash. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the mid round. So if you're lucky, hopefully you have a teammate that still has an HE and a molly, and if you're extra lucky, maybe they've dropped that to you. But either way, hopefully someone is going to be able to throw some variation of this set. So if you want to take a little bit of extra banana control after the T's have already established a little bit of a presence here, this is what I consider to be the best way to do that. So the first step is you're going to want to smoke bottom banana. Generally, I'm just going to do this by doing a nice run throw at this window. That should land nice and deep here. No problem whatsoever. Very easy lineup. Right after I throw that, I'm going to either molly out the left or the right side. For this example, let's say we're just mollying out this right side here, this logs area. You're just going to throw a molly in there. Again, no fancy lineup needed. That's going to either force them over into this cubby or back behind the smoke, or, you know, if they're really desperate, they may run up in front of it. All of these options works out pretty well into our favor. What I'm generally going to do with that HE is I'm going to aim right around the right side of this window, do a little run throw, and that HE is going to land right here into this left side pocket. So if they've decided to jump out of that molly into the left pocket, they're going to get hit for like 50, maybe 60 by this HE. So a really good HE to throw as well. So at this point, you're going to have a smoke down. This position has been mollied out, so you know no one's here. And then this position has been naded out. So right after I throw all that, I like to go right here into this corner and do a simple left and right click throw at this wire. Now that is going to end up popping right here, and it's going to full blind anyone that's in a high danger position, nice up close and personal. That way they're going to get fully blinded by this thing. You can peek out, you're going to have some pretty easy targets to deal with. It's even going to blind anyone that's sitting back here on the other side of half wall, just like so. Now, of course, there is a lazy version of that flash if you're just wanting to do everything really quick. For example, you know, you're mollying, right? You're nading, and then you can just bank a flash off of this window here and just peek with it, and that's also just fine. Whichever way you want to do it, that's a little bit faster. But if you've got time, maybe you have a teammate with you, sometimes I just prefer throwing this because I find it to be way harder to turn away from on the T side. Now, it may be a bit more realistic that they've taken full control of top car. So let's talk about how to snatch that right back. So you can go on top of first oranges, and the way the pros usually do this is by getting on top of this pole right here, then looking up to the top of this one and doing a left and right click throw with the smoke. That's going to land down here, and it's going to bounce up on top of half wall and be a giant smoke that's even going to fully smoke off a boost just like this. So the only thing you really have to worry about is people in front of the smoke, such as behind car. Now, to deal with behind car, it's even easier. From that exact same position, you just do a simple left click throw at the very bottom of this darker pole, and let's take a look at the result. It's going to fully molly out the entirety of back car, as you can see right here. Now, whether you've thrown all that car utility or not, one of the best retake flashes for car that you could ever throw is from right here behind coffins. You're just going to aim up from this little house all the way up to this part of the roof and do a simple left click throw with a flash. That right there is going to allow your teammates to kind of run up here and just peek after this flash, and all these positions are just completely eviscerated by that flash. It is such a good flash to throw. Even if there's no utility down, you can still throw that flash to just go for a quick little check, and if they're there, you take a quick fight and fall off, and if they're not there, well, you've got information and you can act accordingly on that. Now, if you've ever smoked off the T's like this and you feel like they're about to stage for an execute, an incredible HE that I've noticed KSCERATO using is you're just going to jump right here on the top of the coffin. You're going to aim at this bottom little notch here and do a run jump throw just before you fall off the box. It's going to look something like this. That's going to end up popping straight down and just devastating every single one of these positions here behind half wall. If they're lining up anything, they are going to eat this grenade for breakfast. All right, so let's talk a little bit about that late round utility. If you have a molly left over, it's probably a good idea to be set up back here and just jiggling around Coffin. And hey, if you spot someone, instead of mollying right at them, you should probably bank it off this wall, because if you throw it that deep, they're just gonna run right through it without taking hardly any damage whatsoever. So what I'll do is right after I spot them, I'll just do a little step throw right off the side of the wall here, and that should spread to go all the way from the left, all the way to the right, to where they're not gonna be able to get through here without taking as much damage. It'll take a little bit further for the front guy, and anyone back behind him, they're gonna get pretty much completely stuck and caught off guard. Now, once that molly starts to fade, if they haven't pushed up, sometimes I'll get stuck right here into this corner, and I'll do a right-click jump throw at the bottom of this plank, and then just peek off of that. And that is going to demolish anyone moving up here, and it's also going to catch anyone that's all the way up into pool without any time to react whatsoever. So you can take a very aggressive peek right off the back of this. Now, if you ever get stuck behind a boost smoke and you want to push through and maybe catch anyone before they get to sight, you can get stuck into this corner right here, and you can find this little bracket on the pipe, go up to the bracket on the gutter, and do a left and right click throw. This flash is going to perfectly blind anyone in this position without, I mean, they have zero time to react. There's no way they're turning from this thing, and you can just peek out and try to go for a multi-frag. This is something that is a very desperate play. You'll see pros go for this all the time when it just looks like there's no other way to get back into the round. But hey, you know what? You do you. If you think you can multi-frag off the back of that flash, you should throw that anytime you feel like it. And finally, let's talk about defensive smoking. So if I'm ever jiggling here on this position, and anytime I feel pressure, maybe there's some utility being thrown, I'm gonna end up just doing a nice little right click throw towards the fountain to completely smoke off this area where I have a lot more room to work around. I can take maybe a more passive angle here where they're not gonna expect me, a little bit of an off angle, and catch them as they're crossing. This is a really great way to isolate some duels and make your last piece of utility even more effective. All right, guys, thanks for sticking with me. That wraps up my full guide of every single piece of utility you need to know for the B side of Inferno. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, or maybe even commenting down below. Before I do go, I want to thank all of my amazing channel members on screen right now. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to do what I love every single day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.